Hey everybody, Richard here with InvisaGig, and today we're going to go over a slightly more advanced topic, but still super simple, crazy fast, just like the InvisaGig. So the topic is manually setting a cell tower lock. On the InvisaGig, we have the ability to log in, go to the connection configuration, and do a local tower search. It's going to tell you a bunch of information you need to read. We'll say yes. And on here, we can choose to search either LTE or 5G standalone bands that the cell modem can find. Now, currently, with the exception of some new stuff rolling out for AT&T, AT&T and Verizon only support non-standalone 5G, and so you'll need to do the LTE. What that means is the primary cell that it connects to on non-standalone 5G is actually an LTE cell, and that 5G symbol on your phone, again, with the exception of new standalone rollouts on AT&T, and only on select markets and select phones. But anyway, that 5G emblem, and really even on the T-Mobile side, but that 5G emblem just means that it sees a 5G cell somewhere and it is available for use. It does not mean you're using it. It's actually using an LTE cell as the primary connection and then is capable of aggregating in the 5G. In that case, if we're using NSA, so again, for the InvisaGig, that's on AT&T and Verizon, you're going to need and only have the option for LTE. I'm actually using T-Mobile in this example so that we can go over both ways that we can do the setup, either locked to a standalone cell or an LTE cell. But if I do a search on standalone, and I've done one in the past, it should give you a list of a bunch of different bands with a number. So if we look here on T-Mobile number 5, it's band 25 carrier T-Mobile. So if I wanted to connect to band 25 on T-Mobile, and more specifically, that one band 25, if we look down here for AT&T, there's 2 band 77s. Maybe we don't like this one. We like this one. There's ways to find out, but you can see over here, there's actually unique identifiers, frequency, PCI, that tell you that those 2 bands are actually different on the tower. They have a unique identifier and a very specific frequency that they operate on that tower. That way the modem can actually communicate to each one of them differently. It actually uses a slightly different frequency for that connection. So let's say we like 77, this one. We don't like 77, that one. We can actually lock to it. I'm on T-Mobile right now, so we're going to use the example of T-Mobile. But if we see it in our scan, super cool. Down here, we hit number 5. It says, do we want to lock to it? We hit enter, and it will. But what happens if you scan multiple times? So like right now, if I wanted to scan, I'll go ahead and run one, hit enter with no entry. We don't put anything in, hit enter. It actually tells you that here. Make a selection or press enter without a selection, start a new scan. So let's do that. Sometimes it may take a while. This is just scanning the 5G bands in the area that it can pick up on all carriers. I actually have my SIM card inserted, T-Mobile Home Internet SIM, but it'll pick up all the bands that it can. You can do this with or without a SIM card. All right, so mine actually took a while, but patience, it'll show back up. So you look here, and it only came up with one T-Mobile band this time on this scan, and some AT&T stuff. Doesn't show anything else. We had a big old long list before. If it does that, maybe it's not picking something up on that one scan. Maybe it did a timeout. It could be a whole lot of things. Run the scan again, and we wait again. All right, so waited a few more minutes, and we actually got a second scan in. And look here, we have 2 bands of 41, 3 bands of 41, 1 band of 25. So obviously, I have some options here on my band 41, but you notice it didn't come up before on a scan. So for this scan, cool, I can choose band 4, 5, or 6 if there's a particular band 41 that I like. And you'll see here, these 2 are on one tower. This one's on a different tower at a lower signal strength. So this tower may be further away, maybe harder to pick up, but maybe it's faster. right? So maybe this comes on every now and then for me, but not very often. But when it does, it's really fast. So I looked out and it came up my scan. So if I wanted to, we'll do number 6 and we'll lock to it, right? But let's say we don't want to do that. Remember, the last scan will always stay in there until you scan again. So I have the option here for 71, 41s, and 25. I'm going to take a picture of this. So that we can use this for reference in the future. Now, let's exit out of this. And I'm going to go to my modem info. And let's see what we're actually connected to right now. Now, again, we are focusing only on standalone 5G for now. And this is possible only on T-Mobile, but when the other AT&T and Verizon and anybody else, when they start to have standalone, it's the same process. I'm just using T-Mobile as the example so that you guys can see it. Right. So I'm on band 41, and this is my primary cell. Primary cell means this is the cell that it's connected to right now. It's on this tower, which I believe was the one that has 2 41s on it, on the same tower, as well as a 71. And it looks like there is PCI 253 and oh, these are both the same PCI. Oh, that's funny. So these two are showing the same. It's like it put it on there twice, except the cell ID is slightly different. Isn't that weird? So both 30 SCS, both shows the same frequency, both have the same PCI. That may be an error. Slightly different cell ID. That's weird. So weird stuff can pop up. But if you see here, I'm definitely not on this one. So PCI 819. This is PCI 253. So let's say maybe 819 was the good one. That's the one on this other cell tower that I think is a lot faster. All right. But for whatever reason, I can never get it. This one keeps popping up. It always attaches to this one. Obviously, you can't turn off band 41 to get band 41, so that doesn't work. So we can tower lock. So let's do that. Let's say for some reason I do know about this one. And it is the one that I really want to connect to on the tower lock. Okay. We're actually going to use this one here. Okay. We're going to use this one. But let's pretend that you saw it on your modem info screen like this one here. Okay. And then pretend that it doesn't show up in the scan. Or maybe we can even, let's run a scan again. So we see that's the scan. We'll run another scan, see if we can lose that one. Here we go. Oh, look at it. I only have one. And it's the one I'm already connected to. Man, that other band 41, this one, I really want that one, but I never see it in my scan. How can I get this band 41, that is this PCI, and this frequency, and this little SCS number? How can I get that one to connect instead of this one that I keep getting? You see here, this is the one that we are currently connected to. But we want this one. And it's just not showing up on here, so we can't do a cool, simple, just choose the one. All right. We actually type in the letter M for manual entry. What we're going to do is we're going to enter in a set of parameters in a particular order that is right here. PCI, frequency, SCS, and band. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4. So the first number we want to enter in for our parameters is 819. Comma, 501390, comma, 30, comma, 41. Remember, it's band 41. These are the numbers we need to enter, and this is effectively what the automated one does when we just choose one of the numbers of the output. Hit enter. It's going to re-put out the number for you. You can check it here. So 819 501 390 30 band 41. That looks all correct. And we're going to say yes, enter. And then it's going to say, we're going to reconnect your system to that band. Now remember, while it's reconnecting, this is what we had connected to. And it looks like it's going to take a second to let me reconnect. And my Ethernet port's not done doing its jazz. As soon as that settles down, we'll reconnect. Very handy to know whether or not the Ethernet port's connected. Make sure you learn how to do that on your system or router. I'm directly connected to my InvisaGig to the PC. Yep, we're good. Log in. And modem info. So remember, we were on this band 41. And now, look here. Our bound 5G cell, 819, 819. Frequency 501.390, SCS 30, band 41. The other one was on tower ID 1057871. This one's on tower ID 1072576. And you'll notice we didn't do any band locking. We're on standalone 5G. We forced it to 5G standalone, apparently. And so the network mode is 5G standalone. These are all the bands. We didn't disable anything. And if we wanted to, we can go to our live signal. It's connected to a single band of that N41. And I actually don't have great signal here, obviously. I'm in a metal building. I am near Nashville, so it's probably a good speed test server. And you see here, I am testing on T-Mobile. I'll run the speed test. And I don't recommend, 12 millisecond ping's great. I don't recommend running the live signal thing during the speed test, but it is what it is. Maybe if we shut that off. Usually it can eat up some processor resource time, so don't usually recommend it, but this actually ended up being pretty good. So on this particular band of 5G, there's only one available on that tower, it seems. So it won't aggregate with another band of 41. And apparently there's not a band 25 or 71 on that tower either. And so that particular tower only offers a single band of 41, and it gives me performance of 154 and 3.16 up. Good ping though. So that kind of gives you an idea of what's going on with that one, but maybe we want to go back to the other one or whatever. You see here that we did lock to it, and we can show that again in our modem info page. So we did lock to that one. That was successful. And if we want to, we could say, oh, no, that was wrong or whatever. So if this was your goal because you found your magic band and you wanted to bind to that particular standalone band, we're done. Job successful. But if you need to unlock that, you go right back to the same menu. It shows you what's active, and you can just say, remove all tower bindings. We say yes, and it's going to disrupt your connection because obviously it's going to drop that and then bring back. You'll see the Ethernet will renegotiate the link. We're in IP pass-through mode, so it's got to resend through the new IP that's potentially being assigned by the carrier. So it has to rebuild the connection even to the Ethernet port. So that's why you're going to see this drop. IP pass-through, it gets a new IP. Even if it gets the same IP reassigned, it's still a new assignment. So it's got to rebuild that link to the Ethernet port so that you don't lose your connection. So it'll drop out for a second and come back. All right, log back in. And let's see if it put us back on that other N41, which was this one. And it did. All right, so we're back on the other one. We dropped the lock cell, so you can see that forces it to something that it doesn't normally like to connect to. Pretty cool, right? And then we can even test with this one. This one will actually probably aggregate, run another speed test. This one will probably aggregate multiple bands together because I think that tower has, 41, 41, 71, and 25. So this particular one, 2 bands 41. Now, interestingly, same ping time, less download. So same upload. My band 41, my area is just horrible. A lot of people's is like that. But again, isn't that interesting? One band of 41 on another tower gave me nearly twice the download speed as 2 bands of 41 on another. So that highlights, now this is a small test, but I am using the same speed test app from the same place and testing to the same server. Make sure that's never a variable. Those are always the same when you're testing. But this even within a few minutes apart in testing. One band 41 on another tower is twice as fast as 2 bands of 41 on a separate tower. And this separate tower is the one that it always likes to connect to. So proof is in the pudding, right? Sometimes tower locking is necessary if you really want to optimize your signal. Didn't seem to have much effect on my ping. The two cell towers in the area are taking the same path to the same test server, and it seems to be fairly optimized for me. Not everyone's going to get that, but you can see how powerful that is. Now, unfortunately, we can't control what the secondaries are. So it may be that just for whatever reason, adding a secondary is not as good. But if we needed that, there it is. Okay. So that is 5G cell locking. But what about those non-standalone people, right? I'll actually force mine over. Connection configuration. Let's go to network mode. Yes, we're going to change this. We'll do LTE and 5G, but we're going to disable standalone. All right. And then it's going to do the same thing. It's going to disconnect us because it needs to reconnect. 5G standalone on T-Mobile currently is IPv6 only. Non-standalone and LTE, since non-standalone uses LTE anyway, it's IPv4, IPv6 dual stack. And the interfacing between the two is a separate connection. So if your modem is on auto mode and it switches between standalone and non-standalone, you're going to see disconnects because it needs to rebuild that connection between the two different networks on T-Mobile's network. And potentially, whenever the other carriers do the same thing, it may be the same. Maybe, maybe not. We'll see. So now we're on non-standalone. We'll reconnect, verify. Modem info. And you see here, we got standalone disabled. Our primary cell is B66, and our aggregate cell currently is band 41. Gives us a little bit different information on the secondaries, but we really don't need that information for tower locking because we can't tower lock our secondaries. Even though we can LTE lock our primary, we can't also 5G lock the secondary. All secondaries cannot be locked. We can only band lock the band on or off. We can't tell the tower to use that specific band as a secondary. So here we are on LTE and 5G non-standalone. All the bands are unlocked. And currently we're on automatically on this B66 LTE. So we don't need that 5G information because we can't use it anyway. So we'll just go here. And then let's go to our connection configuration, tower search. Yes, this time LTE. And I've run scans before, so who cares? Let's run a new one. Again, these scans can take quite a while, anywhere from just a few seconds, 30, 40 seconds, up to 5, 10 minutes even. And sometimes it's good to run more than one in a row just to make sure that it's got a good scan. Like we saw earlier with the standalone 5G. You only came up with a few the first time, and then a much larger list the second time. But hopefully we get a good scan on this first one. All right, so I picked up 17 different LTE bands, but look at this. It actually only shows T-Mobile for 2, 4, and 12. Okay. 4 and 66 are actually kind of interchangeable. They're supersets of each other. So if you look here, you can see the frequency and PCI, which is actually our information we need in that order. 66811, where we have frequency 66811, and PCI 409. But this says band 4. So these are supersets. A lot of times, if you see band 4 in the scan, it's actually going to likely show up in the modem status and the signal screens as 66. So if you need that, just know that that's what that is. Now, if for any reason we didn't want to connect to this band 4/66, just like in the standalone, same thing. Maybe, I don't know, let's say we wanted to actually connect to band 12 as primary. And just like before, you kept connecting to it on your modem status page, but it just refuses to show up on the scan. Okay. Again, all we need is the frequency and PCI in that order. Same steps, but only 2 bits of information this time instead of the other. It'd be nice if we could just select it, but for some reason it's not showing up in our scans. But we happened to catch it on the modem status page, and when we did, it was the awesome one. So we want to lock to it. It's not showing up in the scans. Manually enter it, just like we did with the standalone. But instead, we manually enter it. So this is that band 12 we wanted. 2 bits of information, 5035 and 148. 5035, 148. That's all we need. Enter 5035, 148. 5035, 148. Yes, that's good. So enter. Give it a chance to rebuild that Ethernet port connection before we attempt to reconnect. Log back in. Modem info. And look at there. Bound cell 5035, 148 is in fact band 12. 5035, 148. So we've successfully chosen the band that we wanted to, but it didn't show up in the scan, so we couldn't do it the super simple, easy way. We did the next best way. So band locking, totally different than tower locking. Tower locking, we can actually choose the primary, either standalone 5G or the LTE primary on LTE or non-standalone 5G and LTE. And you'll see here too. So we're on band 12. I don't know if this is going to aggregate with a secondary cell or not. We can actually check with the live signal. And it looks like it doesn't want to right now. Oh, there we go. So as soon as it goes under load, it'll pull in other bands if available, if they aggregate with that band as a primary. But again, we may or may not like the aggregations or whatever, but once we find that sweet spot, we can always use the tools in the InvisaGig toolset to lock to the ones we want. We just need those little bits of information. You can also pull those bits of information from different sites like CellMapper or other sites that are similar, as long as they can provide you with that same bit of information, the frequency of that cell and the PCI number of that cell for LTE, and then the frequency, PCI, SCS, as well as the band number for the 5G standalone. If you can get those bits of information and you know in fact that they can connect to your modem because you can see them, you're sure you can reach them, enter it in, give it a try, and you might be able to lock to cells that you've never been able to connect to before, or specifically, and usually the bigger case, cells that you don't always connect to, but when you do, it's amazing. InvisaGig makes it super simple to do this, and it ends up giving you the most control over your connections so that hopefully you're also super fast. This has been Richard with InvisaGig. Take care.